Okay, as was said, I had a long career as academic, consultant, companies, and so on, all in many different countries. And from all that experience, I came back with two deep beliefs. One belief is that if you don't innovate, you're bound to die, clearly. And the second belief is that to innovate, you need experience, because innovation is also, in some sense, a dangerous business. Okay, among my experiences, one has struck me particularly, and it is the wealth management industry. So I want to concentrate a bit of that now for the presentation of Riskinnov. This business has two problems, main problems. The first problem is common to many industries and is to put the client in the center of the business. Instead of putting the supply approach, first the fund engineering in the center of the business. And that's not an easy task. And the other issue is to maintain profit, or to increase possibly profitability, even though regulation is on a rising trend, and competition as well. So Riskinnov offers integrated, our vision is a vision of integrated risk management. And I want to show you that behind the regulation in wealth management, and in particular the regulation which calls for suitability of the proposed investment to the profile of the retail investor, which is one of the main horses of MiFID, for instance. Well, behind that, there is a potential source of profit. Let's look at two visions of the suitability requirements. One is most common, and many of you have experienced it. It's the idea that the bank looks at it as a constraint, as something cumbersome, costly, something which anyway cannot be solved in a significant way, in a meaningful way, deprived of any meaningful tool, and therefore we do the minimum. We do what? We do use a more or less standard questionnaire with different variants, and the questionnaire being at least apparently compliant. And then we ignore the meaning, if at all, of these questionnaires, because these questionnaires are not convincing at all. They actually are boring for the client and little convincing for the bank, and in fact, they are of little use. So that one can say that they are apparently compliant, but in fact are excuses. They just have a sheet of paper in case of an inspection, we can show something. Another way to look at it, and this is what we suggest, is no, look behind that regulation. Even if the regulation hasn't got it right, and even if the regulation has been expressed in cumbersome ways and is embarrassing, there is a real problem. And that real problem is what? Is a problem of risk management. We have to mitigate risks from investors' behavior. Suppose we make mistake on the risk profile of the individual. Suppose we propose a risky portfolio to somebody who is risk averse. What will happen? It will happen that as soon as the market will go down, the portfolio will suffer a heavy drawdown, and the person will be absolutely crazy and call the banker and said, what did you do? I immediately demand that you reshuffle my portfolio. That's a cost. That's a cost. Worse, he can go to court. And there are millions, billions of compensation which have been asked to financial institutions in the last 10 years. I don't speak of class actions. So let's compare what happens in the two possible vision. First of all, a documented study in France have shown, for the equivalent of the FCA here, has shown that routine questionnaires, I'm not speaking of a few exceptions, but the routine questionnaires of 95% of the cases make more than 75% mistakes. Some of these mistakes might be innocent, some can be very costly, as I said just before. Well, the annual miss of income equivalent per client can be estimated at up to $3,000. And this results from two things. First of all, the cost avoided, which I alluded to a few minutes ago. And second, the fact that you can price the advisory a bit higher if you have a real tool to get something effective and meaningful. And also the fact that a real tool has been approved, we have the experience of that, to be a quite important marketing tool. So as compared, we don't claim that our solution is perfect, of course, and we know from science and from experience that we make about 25% mistakes. Again, some are innocuous, a few of them might be more costly. So we reduce the cost to $900. Per client, changing perspectives means that you make $2,000 more. So how does that work, you can ask? Well, it first rests on the innovative technology I've derived from my career and experience. And so we start by collecting objective data, as is required, by the way, by law anyway. But you don't stay there. What we do is that these objective data will parameterize and condition a system of interactive elicitation software, and which means that the system is bespoke to the investor. Okay, each session is adjusted to the profile of the investor, and within 6 to 15 clicks, the average being 10. This morning we did an experiment with someone in the room, and it turns out to be 10 clicks. You get two things. First of all, and it's very important to realize that you get two results. One result is a simple interface for the retail investor, expressing in natural, simple terms, understandable by anyone, even outside the profession, what his or her risk profile is and how it is situated within the scale of risk profile. The other one is a document that is not shown to the retail investor, but is reserved for the account manager. That document describes the same profile, but in financially technical terms. For instance, average annual volatility or average value at risk, or etc. For the portfolio fitted to that risk profile. Understand me, we're not recommending any specific investment. All the results is concentrated on how the distribution of returns of the portfolio should look like to be suitable to the investor. And by doing this, we solve one issue, which even the very few exceptions I was mentioning when starting that talk, the very few sophisticated questionnaires do not solve, which is the coordination between the clientele officer and the account officer. Because even the sophisticated questionnaire will come with some qualitative description in terms of psychological terms. So we have these results are bespoke in three ways. First of all, as written on this slide, it's a bespoke design each time we elicit the risk profile of the individual. Second, you have a choice of either staying with the technical description of the account manager and saying, okay, we make a portfolio suitable for that category of risk. You can use quant to optimize portfolio. So it's an integrated solution for risk management applied to and disrupting the industry in risk profiling. Thank you.
Thank you, Bertrand.